Hello Africa, it is Tuesday, the 26th day of September, a day where opposition demonstrations rocked two of East Africa's major capitals, right here in Nairobi and Kampala in Uganda. In Kenya, security detail attached to the opposition leaders have been withdrawn as they began their demonstrations against the country's electoral body, that is IEBC. And in Uganda, it's been a day of rage as the much talked about age limit bill was finally brought to Parliament. And tonight, our focus will be on these two countries as we look at the rising agitation for change through civil disobedience. This is Bottomline Africa. My name is Yusuf Ibrahim. Let's now take a look at Africa in 60 seconds. Police in Kenya dispersed NASA supporters demonstrating to force IEBC officials out of office over bungled presidential elections. Chaos in Uganda's parliament as several people, among them opposition leader Kizza Besigye, arrested ahead of age limit debate. João Lorenzo is sworn in as Angola's second president, taking over from José Eduardo dos Santos. And tonight we look at the rising clamor for civil disobedience among opposition supporters in Africa. And tonight, on our Twitter poll, we are asking you, has civil disobedience helped to change or to shape governance in Africa? Has civil disobedience helped to shape governance in Africa? You know the drill. Our Twitter handle is at KTN News. You can as well tweet me at Yusuf Ibra. Always remember to use the hashtag Bottomline Africa. And of course, that is going to form the basis of a discussion tonight. Our guests are on standby in studio. We have Onyango Olo, who is the Speaker of the Kisumu County Assembly. We have David Oli Sankok, who is a nominated Member of Parliament in the National Assembly, of course, as well as Jarvis Bigambo, who is a change management consultant and a political analyst. I'm going to engage them shortly within this show. But first things first, let's take a look at our top story tonight. And tensions have been running high most of the day here in Kenya as police used tear gas and batons to disperse protesters in the capital, Nairobi. Tear gas was fired near the IEBC headquarters in anniversary towers towards opposition protesters who were calling for election officials to be prosecuted and sacked before a rerun of a contested presidential vote. Similar protests happened in the lakeside city of Kisumu. Meanwhile, NASA presidential candidate Raila Odinga has again threatened not to go for the October 26th election unless IEBC officials, among them CEO Ezra Chiloba, resigns. Chiloba, on the other hand, maintains he will stay put in office.
Know what Uhuru Kenyatta is fearing. He told us if we are sure we won elections, then we should follow the law. We are following the law. And the law allows us to demonstrate and say Chiloba must go home.
Sisi tuko tayari kurudi kiwanjani, lakini na referee ambaye hajavaa jazi ya mtu yoyote.
The general are not always in the field. You have got foot soldiers who are on the field, who are fighting. So it is a demonstration of Kenyans. It's not a demonstration of Raila Odinga.
And still in Kenya, Embakasi East Member of Parliament Babu Owino will be spending his second night in police custody, awaiting a bail application verdict by the court over hate remarks. Babu, also known as Paul Ongili, was charged with 2 counts of subversion and uttering abusive words against President Uhuru Kenyatta. The derogatory remarks were allegedly made during a public campaign rally right here in Nairobi over the weekend. The prosecution says there are compelling reasons to hold the MP in custody. Babu's lawyers argued that the prosecution's application was not backed by any document.
Of arrest, the process of detention of the accused person without being granted police bond The process of arraignment in court and the opposition to bail by a battery of 5 senior lawyers, now paid by the taxpayers, to deny the accused his freedom in court, demonstrate malice.
Well, over to another major story that we are following for you, this time round in Uganda, where the chambers of parliament temporarily became a boxing turf this afternoon as MPs opposed to a presidential age limit removal faced off with their counterparts from the ruling NRM party. The clashes started with accusations that some members were armed in the House, degenerating into blows and fist fights. Opposition legislatures lived true to their word when they promised they will not allow the age limit removal bill to be tabled without a fight. Our partners at NBS Uganda captured the moments.
PM Igara West MP Raphael Majezi, who was supposed to move a motion seeking for leave of parliament to handle the age limit removal bill, entered the House to the applause of those supporting him. Speaker Kadaga entered 10 minutes later and started by asking MPs with ribbons to remove them. She then explained the different motions received from MPs, announcing that she had allowed some and rejected others for various reasons. Kadaga reported to the MPs that the reason she accepted the private member's bill was because government delayed to introduce the omnibus constitutional amendments, and yet Parliament was running out of time. Within this communication, chaos started with a fight between State Minister Ronald Chibule and Buyaga West MP Barnabas Tinka Simire of a chair. The Speaker then ordered that Chibule be checked over having a gun in the House.
Are actually not safe because some guns have been slipped into this house. Us get out and we get in and they take us. They take us one by one. That's a possible point, Honourable Speaker, that I would like, because even you, Honourable Speaker, in that seat where you are, Honourable Speaker, you are not safe.
With an allegation that guns have been smuggled into chambers has been raised. And this is not a matter where we would take some experiments without being scientific.
Us get out and we get in and they take us. They take us one by one. That's a possible point, Honourable Speaker, that I would like, because even you, Honourable Speaker, in that seat where you are, Honourable Speaker, you are not safe. You are not safe, Honourable Speaker, the members are not safe. So we get out, Honourable Speaker, and they take us one by one.
This is when Budadiri West MP Nandala Mafabi tried to conduct the search himself, which led to a fight. The Speaker then ordered a search of all members in the House after opposition legislators insisted that there was a member with a gun.
Start there in the middle. Start there and then go on by road. The areas and the others have been completed. They are not guns. Let us proceed.
Chiadondo East MP Robert Chagulanyi and Makindye West's Alan Sewanyana then started singing songs against lifting of the presidential age limit. After several minutes, the Speaker calmed down MPs and the session proceeded, starting with presentations from ministers.
Very dramatic images there from Ugandan Parliament. Now, just to tell us more the current situation in Kampala, Uganda, I'm joined by my colleague Solomon Serawanja. Solomon, good evening. We've seen that development from Uganda's Parliament. At what point did the honourable members cease to be honourable and started engaging in fistfights?
Well, I'll tell you this, Yusuf. A very good evening from Kampala. In Uganda, the parliamentary session actually went on until 8 p.m. in the night. Think about it. Members of parliament in the August Assembly until 8 p.m. This really speaks, it speaks large of the matter which was before the August Assembly. Now, Yusuf, if I can tell you, let me just bring you up to speed with the developments of what happened today in Parliament. So, before even the session began, the motion seeking leave of Parliament to draft a private member's bill to amend the Constitution majorly on Article 102B of the Constitution that deals with lifting of the age limit for the President from 75 to leaving it until death was not on the order paper. Now, the Speaker, according to some closed-door sources, there's a lot of pressure from several circles, including the executive, by the way, I should say. And later on, we were told that the order paper was amended and it was included. So when the session began, members from the opposition were ready for another showdown, and they said they will not absolutely allow that motion to be tabled on the floor of Parliament. Yusuf, for me, this is a score for the opposition, because then they have managed to get their target today. Even when the House was adjourned, that motion was never debated. It never came on the floor of the House. So they once again score. So they have said that they will not allow this motion to even be tabled or even to be discussed. Dramatic scenes playing out in Parliament there. Tensions were high. But I think the opposition was very, very strategic. They brought out several reasons, several points of objections, point of order to the Speaker, one of which was they refused to debate because they said one of the ministers, also a member of Parliament, had a gun brought into the August Assembly. That took a large part of the debate this afternoon. Eventually, they managed to win, and the Speaker directed that all members of Parliament, including the ministers, are searched to find that gun. In my own opinion, yes, they may have had a valid reason, but it was a tactic or a strategy to keep the debate going, and by close of day not to have this motion tabled. So, Yusuf, it is another 2-0 now again for the opposition here in Uganda, who are against the lifting of the age limit for the presidency. Yusuf, however, I think also the NRM has scored. The fact that this issue has been put on the order paper means that it will be debated. And Yusuf, tomorrow, the Speaker of Parliament at 2 p.m. will be presiding over another anticipated heated debate to discuss the age limit debate, the age limit removal motion that is, of course, going to be tabled by Honorable Raphael Magezi, seeking leave of Parliament to draft a private member's bill to bring in that motion on the floor of Parliament tomorrow. Yusuf.
I understand as much as there was drama inside Parliament, there was also drama outside Parliament. And we're getting reports that there were some key political figures, including the opposition leader, Chiza Besigye. I understand that they were arrested. Can you talk us through that?
Well, I'll tell you this, Yusuf. The opposition seems to be united on this issue, and so is the public. Of course, the section of the public is a little bit torn between supporting the amendment of Article 102 of the Constitution, while the other section of the public is against. Now, those against include Dr. Kizza Besigye and other opposition leaders who are not necessarily members of parliament. So today, Dr. Kizza Besigye was at it again. He was in the middle of town, city center, crowded places, many people joining him on that campaign, raising his fingers, one people, one Uganda, this is the way he does it. But of course, many people rallying behind him and saying, Tojikwatako. Now, Tojikwatako, Yusuf, is a Ugandan word, but it's the name of the campaign. It means don't touch. So there is a campaign, it's dubbed Tojikwatako, which means don't touch. Precisely saying don't touch Article 102B of the Constitution. Now, Dr. Kizza Besigye joined the opposition to really push for this. He was arrested. There was a lot of tear gas around town. Some people were arrested. And also some people took some canes from police officers. Dr. Kizza Besigye was later on taken in a black van to an unidentified position now. But we also know that Dr. Kizza Besigye has really been against President Yoweri Museveni's regime, describing it as a dictatorship. So he can only be right, and he can only use the political moment to shine once again, Yusuf.
Final question, very briefly, can you give us a rough picture of the composition of parliament there? Because I understand this is a bill that is being sponsored by the ruling party.
Well, the tyranny of numbers seem to not play out very well for the NRM because they have the majority number of MPs in the August Assembly. After the NRM, then we have the independents. Now, the independents are divided into two. Some section of the independents leaning to the NRM, another section of the independents leaning to the opposition. But this time around, it looks like the opposition plus a section of the independents are taking the NRM, which have the majority in parliament. So will the tyranny of numbers play out tomorrow? That's a question you and I can only wait for to be answered when the session begins at 2 p.m. Yusuf.
Of course. Many thanks for that comprehensive update, Solomon. We're going to link up with you tomorrow once that motion is once again tabled in Parliament there in Uganda. Of course, that was my colleague Solomon Serawanja coming to us all the way from Kampala, Uganda. Let's now cross over to Angola, where Angola sworn in a new president today. The first time there has been a change in leaders for nearly 4 decades. João Lourenço, a former defense minister, replaces José Eduardo dos Santos, who stood down in August after 38 years in power. Observers say, well, there is a real desire for change. A radical shift is unlikely, as Lourenço has been at the heart of the governing MPLA, Popular Liberation Movement of Angola party, for decades. Dos Santos will retain control over the party with the right to choose the police chief and head of the army. Critics say his children, including Africa's richest woman, Isabel dos Santos, have been positioned to control the economy. Despite Angola's oil wealth, inequality remains striking. The MPLA has governed Angola since it gained independence from Portugal in 1975.
And studied in the Soviet Union. He became political chief of the armed wing of Angola's ruling MPLA.
Of course, that story from Angola takes us to a very short break, but when we come back, we'll start our studio discussion where we're discussing nothing else but about civil disobedience in Africa. Is it helping shape governance, in this continent? I'm going to engage our guest shortly. We'll have that and much more. Don't go too far.